Hey everyone, it's Michael. Today I'm going to be doing a review for another episode of the old Goosebumps TV show. This one comes from 1996. It is the first episode called Monster Blood. Of course, I got the DVD in the mail today. This one has a few episodes on it, but I just wanted to talk about the first Monster Blood episode. There is supposedly a two-parter, sorta, kinda. They premiered on the same day. The first one is called Monster Blood 1, according to the DVD. IMDb page says just Monster Blood. The second episode is called More Monster Blood. So I'm just talking about the first one right now. Monster Blood 1 or just Monster Blood. I'm just going to call it Monster Blood. I just recently read the book. Well, the first two books. I'm reading the third one right now. I was not a big fan of the first book. I just wasn't. I don't know. It was the third book ever released for Goosebumps, as far as I know. And to me, it didn't feel yet like what I'm used to Goosebumps feeling like. There's a very specific tone of how Goosebumps is written, what kind of way the characters talk. They all talk very familiar, very alike, and yet that first book just doesn't impress me all that much. This first episode is mainly adapted from that first book, for anybody who actually cares about that. Essentially, a young boy gets to go to his Aunt Catherine's house while his parents look for a house in Atlanta, I believe is what it was. He has to stay a few days, apparently. The big change, though, is that in this episode, the aunt isn't deaf. Now, in the book, she's deaf. You know, she doesn't want to learn sign language or anything like that. She doesn't want other people to know how to really talk to her. She kind of just wants to be heard and not have to hear, if that makes any sense. This episode is great. It really is. It's really fun. The thing is, I've never seen the Monster Blood episode until, like, last year. I had never seen it. I'd never read the books before until recently. I think I tried to read the first one when I was younger, because I have a reissue copy from, like, 2004, 5, or 6, somewhere in there. But this episode I just saw for the first time last year. It's actually the first time my fiance was ever exposed to Goosebumps as well. So, you know, she actually really liked this episode as well. As silly and bizarre and campy and weird as it is, this is such a love letter to these wild sci-fi type of 50s and 60s black and white horror movies. It was great. Everything about it was great. It's really bad in the sense of, like, the filmmaking and whatnot, which really impresses me, because for anybody else who doesn't know, Timothy Bond, the same director of Night of the Living Dummy 3, which is another fantastic episode, or episodes, he directed that, and he directed this. It just goes to show my point about how I think that there is a difference in budget between Monster Blood and this. Night of the Living Dummy 3 is what I mean. Because Night of the Living Dummy 3 feels like a film, almost. Monster Blood feels like a kid's horror property, and yet it's so entertaining. It's such an enjoyable 20 minutes. You know, this is a one standalone episode by itself, about 20-21 minutes, somewhere in there. This boy, when he goes to his aunt's house, she's very weird, very eccentric. She likes to walk around the room and dance to, like, orchestra music and pretend like she's orchestrating these songs themselves. She always has the little stick and she's waving her arms and everything else like she's in Harry Potter. It's real fun to watch. The actress is really into it, so it's funny. Yeah, this episode, you know, it was fine as an adaptation. I would really heavily use the word adaptation when I talk about this episode compared to the book. There's a lot of the book in here, and there's a lot missing. For example, the best friend of our main character, Evan, Andy, she's in this. She's a series favorite. Andy is in this, but she acts nothing like how Andy acts in the book. I love Andy in the books. I really do. In here, anybody could have played her. She has no personality. The script doesn't give her anything to work with. It's not the actress's fault. It's just kind of, you know, whatever. In the book, you know, Evan and Andy have this great kind of bickering relationship, almost like a brother and sister type thing when they first meet. And then from that point on, it gets worse and worse with those two. But in this particular book, no, that's not the case. It's kind of weird. They didn't even try to maintain that for whatever reason. But it was still a fun episode to watch. I still dug it. Surprisingly enough, when it comes to the cast, you also have the main character, of course, Evan, is played by Kyle Labine, who, if anybody who doesn't know who Kyle Labine is, He's essentially the hippie, like the long-haired pothead from Freddy vs. Jason, if you happen to have seen that. The one that gets possessed by Freddy in the film. That guy is really one of the highlights of that movie, in my opinion. I think he's really funny. Especially that wild scene with the Freddy worm thing. That was cool. But yeah, I didn't know that was him. I saw on his IMDb page that he was in Freddy vs. Jason. I couldn't figure out who Bill Freeberg was. Figured out it's the long-haired guy, just in case you cared and wanted to know. You also have I would call it sort of a cameo, even though it's her first ever appearance in anything as an actress. Joy Tanner, for anybody who doesn't know who that is, and anybody watching this probably doesn't know, there was a Disney show years ago when I was a kid, probably in 2004, 5, 6, somewhere in there. I loved this show. It was called Life with Derek. I'm pretty positive she played the mom. From what I could tell on the page, it says she plays Nora. I'm pretty confident that Nora was the mother on the show. But anyway, I loved this woman. I was obsessed with her. I had a giant crush on her when I was a kid. I thought she looked familiar when I saw this episode the first time. When I watched it tonight, I had to confirm that on IMDb. This feels like an IMDb advertisement. Sorry about that. But I had to confirm it, and it was her. It's Joy Tanner. I was dumbfounded. I couldn't believe how young she looks here. It's really weird. But, yeah, like the casting again for Andy is fine. The Aunt Catherine, she's casted well. The actress once again is very into it. She's enjoying it every second of it. You don't see a whole lot of elderly folk that play characters in movies and TV and stuff get really like into a role, like where they're moving a whole lot and stuff. She's really on fire in this episode, in my opinion. But anyway, the two kids happen to go to the room across the hall from the room Evan is staying in inside of this house, his aunt's house. And they happen to open up like this. I think like the episode is trying to make a reference to The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. They basically open up like a wardrobe closet type thing. And it's not built into the wall or anything. It's just a wardrobe type of thing standing there. But there's like this container. It's like a mason jar with one of those wild looking, wired locks on it. And they pop it open and a cat magically appears out of nowhere. They don't know why, but it appears out of nowhere across the room. And they feel the bottom of this container, and whatever this green goop inside of this container, labeled monster blood is what it says on the little label on it, the container feels warm. Like whatever this green goop slime stuff is, that it's warm, and they don't know why. So they put their hands in, of course, because that makes sense. It couldn't possibly be like a bleach that could eat your fingers off or something, but they just go ahead and put their fingers in there anyway. And they feel it, and they're like, wow, this is really weird. And they want to play with it. Like, they ball it up into a ball and, like, throw it on the floor, and it bounces all over the room. It's so fun. It's like a flubber type thing. But that's all I really want to tell you is about their encounter with the monster blood thing itself, entity, toy. In the book, it's a toy. In here, it's just kind of, it's a thing. It's a blob that moves. Episode is really fun. It's really fun, it's really campy, it's really silly and over the top. You can either watch it and laugh at it, or you can watch it and be kind of grossed out by the monster blood itself. The monster blood itself has the nastiest, most gross sound effects ever applied to it. It's like a bubbling noise, but also like a gurgling stomach type noise. Like it's trying, like it apparently is an entity that likes to eat things, whether it be people or anything. We see it at one point actually consume a fly. Not like with teeth or anything, but it just kind of folds over on a fly and eats it, consumes it, swallows it, whatever you want to call it. There's a little bit of tension in here, but the thing that kind of ruins it is the horrible... oh my god, it kind of... I hate to use the phrase 90s CGI, or special effects, whatever. And yet at the same time, it's beyond worse compared to 90s CGI. And yet it's still charming. Like I said with Night of the Living Dummy 3 when I reviewed that episode a little bit ago. It's charming like that. It just... There's something about this particular episode. It might be a Timothy Bond thing since he directed both. I don't know what it is. It's not the script. It's just a really wild, cheesy, odd little story to tell in 20 minutes. And even the second episode, More Monster Blood, is really fun too from what I remember. But we'll get there when we get there. Let's not rush to that. But this first episode is a standalone episode I enjoy a lot. I actually think that I wish I had grown up on this episode as well, to go along with Stay Out of the Basement, Night of the Living Dummy, and 3, and Bride of the Living Dummy, and all those episodes that I loved on VHS and DVD. Haunted Mask 1 and 2. I wish I had grown up on this episode along with those others, but I don't even think this got a VHS release in America, as far as I know. I think only the big, like, two-part episodes, like Night of the Living Dummy 3 and Stay Out of the Basement, were the ones that got the VHS releases back in the day. But even so, guys, I had a great time watching this again for, like, the first time in probably a year now. It's been a while. This is my second time watching it, but like I said, I had a great time. It was really, again, it's very campy, and it really knows what it is. And I think that's the genius with Timothy Bond. Timothy knows what he's doing. If there would ever, for some reason, be a revitalization of Goosebumps, if we started making episodes and TV adaptations, show adaptations of the books and stuff again, if Timothy Bond is still alive, I would love to see him come back and work on this again. I would love it. I think that this is exactly what Goosebumps should be like TV-wise. Very silly, very over the top, eccentric, is that the word? Yeah. Acting, just really wild stuff. Like, I really think that his touch feels like what Stein would want the show to be. Now, I don't know about R.L. Stein's thoughts on the TV show itself and the adaptations they do of his books, but I feel like this is what it should be like. It's kind of like One Day at Horrorland. Good adaptation. Really good adaptation of that book. Not completely sticking to the book, but it worked in a very loose way, you know? But still, guys, what are your thoughts on Monster Blood? Put your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this awesome little episode. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to talk about with Monster Blood as an episode. I don't think there is. Again, you may or may not tonight get an episode of more, or get a review, excuse me, of more Monster Blood, the second episode of Monster Blood. I don't know. I might not. I don't know. Kind of depends on what you guys want to do. But anyway, if I had to rate Monster Blood, or Monster Blood 1 as it sometimes is called, like on this DVD, on a 5-star basis, as silly and wild and weird as it is, and how, again, the CGI is horrible, horrible. This is not one where many practical effects are used. It's a lot of CGI. I have to say, I still love it. I still think it's a really solid episode. I'd give it a 5 out of 5. It's nowhere as good as the quality of something like Night of the Living Dummy 3, but when it comes to the Goosebumps TV show, and how it's very hit or miss. Every single episode that I've ever seen of this show has either been fantastic and something I've really enjoyed and really thought was cool in a B-movie type way, or it's been horrible and unwatchable. It happens. It's always one or the other with me. A lot of the time. There's very few that I think are very middle ground, honestly. This is one of those ones that I really dig. I really, really dig it, and like I said, I wish I'd gotten to grow up on this a little bit. But anyway, what are your thoughts on the Monster Blood episode, adaptation, whatever you'd like to call it? Do you like this episode more, or do you like the second one more? More Monster Blood is what I'm referring to when I say the second one. What do you guys think? I'd love to know your thoughts down below. Thank you for watching. Again, 5 out of 5 for me. I dug this episode a lot. It was really cool. Let me know down below. Thank you for watching. May the Lord Jesus Christ bless you guys today, and goodbye.